Hey guys, Montel here, and again, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Let's Be Blunt with Montel. We talk about everything, anything cannabis, and we also talk about some of the issues that are facing us right now, especially during this election year, and talking about your responsibility of what you got to do, understanding that if you complain, the only thing you're worth complaining about is others who don't vote. So don't be one of those who don't. But anyway, I'm glad that you tuned in to Let's Be Blunt because I know you're trying your best to navigate the space when it comes to cannabis, hemp, and it's hard. A lot of information out there, a lot of people talking, a lot of people selling a lot of things that may not be of any benefit to you at all. So I'm glad that you're tuning in and trying to get the best information that you can. And I like to have sometimes I want to do, a podcast that's as technical and filled with information as possible. Other times I just want to do a free flowing conversation. And this is one of those times I think that, the latter is going to be better than the former. And that is because I've got a guest here on Let's Be Blunt today who's a very, very special guest. He's a former tight end for the New Orleans Saints, founder of Black Ghost Enterprises, a multi-faceted branding company that includes a line of CBD cannabis products under the Boobeary brand. He's also a member of the Gridiron Cannabis Coalition and has been active in speaking about his experience using cannabis and medicine and advocating for the NFL to get a grip. Like the rest of the sports teams out there that are contact teams, get a grip. It's about time that you start to understand the protection that's provided by cannabis, and that's what he's out here fighting for. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Boo Williams.
Hey.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, man.
Thank you, Montel, for having me on. I really appreciate it. It was worth the long drive. I drove 8 hours to get here to you, man,
Brother,
so it was worth the drive.
You're making me feel really good about myself, man. You'd be willing to get in the car, and I should say that here is your girlfriend is here with you, and her daughter's here with you.
Yeah.
And to get in the car for 8 hours and drive down here to talk to me, thank you very much, sir.
Oh, appreciate it. The ride wasn't too bad. They was playing Call of Duty the whole way, so.
Call of Duty. Well, that's something that got you addicted.
Yeah, they got Call of Duty on the phone now, so that's what they were doing dang on the whole way.
In the car?
Yeah, man. And my fiance, she's a Call of Duty junkie, so she's all day, every day. Whenever she gets her time, she's on her Call of Duty.
I gotta be sounding like one of these old fuddy-duddy, last generation. What do they call us now? I heard that there's this term calling you boomer.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm a boomer,
yeah,
but I just don't get to the video game.
You know what? It's intriguing for the brain, and we'll get into it later. But those games are good for the brain. They make the brain active, and your brain is like a muscle. So the more that you exercise it and you use it, the better it gets. So
but Al, now let's also remember that there were some programs that came out a few years ago that claimed to actually help to improve the synaptic connection of your brain.
Yeah.
And then we found out through research that what it does is make you a better game player. But may not actually translate into executive function.
Yeah.
So I agree with you, and I'm telling you, I'm not knocking anybody who plays it. I just, I can sit
we old school. We like the physical. We like to get out and do the things that you had to do as a kid.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because for me, I could play a game for about 5 minutes. I'm like, okay, that's enough of that. Let's go next. But I can see how some of these games can be addictive, and even in the car.
Yeah, and they make it now so you can have it in the car. You don't even have to have the game system at home.
And that would throw me because I'd be really ticked off if I lost a signal and I was right in between getting ready to get killed.
Hey, and that's what you hear the whole time. We lost signal.
I can imagine. That would be the most frustrating. You're the one driving, trying to figure out how can I get you the signal faster.
Yes, how can I get you a signal fast and get to Miami so I can stop hearing y'all fuss about it.
There you go. Well, again, Mr. Boo Williams is here, and here to actually give us a little bit of knowledge, and thank you, sir, when it comes to letting people understand about this space.
Yes.
Let's back up for a second, though. Yes. Let's tell us a little bit about your background. Let's go back to, you played high school football?
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, I went to Tallahassee Lincoln, right there in Tallahassee, Florida. Played there. I was a starter for 3 years on the varsity, and I was supposed to go to Florida State right out of high school, but missed the test scores by a couple points and had to go to a junior college in Kansas.
Okay, well, I mean, but now if you look back at that in hindsight, and I'm telling you, I am not one of those who knocks the sport. I think that eventually what we're going to do is figure out ways to be more protective.
These are going to call it flag football next.
Well, even if they don't go flag football, maybe we're going to be starting to do some things where we'll be able to enhance the training protocols for players to make them, I mean, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but, 10 years from now, we may see every football player walking around with a 35-inch neck. But if that means that starting out in, elementary school, we started training that neck enough so that neck would sustain the head, the helmet, keep it in one place so that you don't bounce the brain around on the inside of it. Then, if people choose to go down that path in life, I think we have to let them do that.
Yeah, because, some sports are just in kids. I mean, we can try to deter our kids away from certain sports, but when it's in them, it's in them. And my son, he's 5 years old, and he plays tackle football. And I can say their coaches are great coaches. They teach them how to tackle. They teach them the heads up program. They give all the parents the information, what they need to have their kids to play tackle football. Right. And just like you said, these kids, they're little and they got this big old helmet on top of their head, so they look like almost like a bobblehead dog. Right. And like you said, with the sports is transitioning like it is today, it's getting a little safer. But let's be honest. You got people crashing to each other at 100 miles per hour, so that's going to be hard to stop.
But at the same time, we have a voracious appetite as human beings to see other people do things that are very gladiator-esque sports. Yep. Remember, there were gladiators 2,000-3,000 years ago.
Yes.
And I mean, so
this is sort of like the gladiator sports.
Let me tell you something. If anybody doesn't think football is today's gladiator, they're crazy.
Yep, it is.
And especially when I was watching a game last night, and I for at least 3 minutes, my mouth was on. Down on my chest. Now, first of all, I back up. I'm a little older than you are, but I mean, in my 30s and 20s, 30s and 40s, I walked around at, I'm 6 foot tall, 210, 215 pounds. Yeah. And walked around at that size because I felt like, the bigger I was, the more space I took up, the more man I was. Yeah. But, I did that. Yeah. And, now here now in this twilight and beautiful period of my life where I've gotten a little older. I also suffer from MS. Yeah. So I had to drop some of that weight. I had to take that weight off. I had to stop doing some of the silly that I was doing to be able to maintain that weight. Yeah. So, now I walk around at 180 pounds, but I feel great, but I'm looking at the TV last night, dude, and I'm watching dudes that are like 245, 255 running 3.3, 3.4, 3.5. Come on. Yeah.
And that's the world that we're in, and
I think back when I was in high school playing football, I weighed maybe 140 pounds and I was a nose guard.
Just think if you played nose guard now at 140.
But dude, there wouldn't be anything left of me. Are you kidding me?
These guys are getting bigger, faster, stronger. I was, not too much long removed from the sport. So, we're at a size where now, guys are running at a massive rate of speed. And when you crash into each other, it's like car crashes.
255, 265 running. Even let's say they're all padded up, they're running at a 4.1. Yeah. But still a 4.1 40. Yeah. They're running across that field and crashing directly into each other. And I'm thinking to myself, now they supposedly, they stopped you guys from doing head-to-head contact.
But it's hard.
But the contact that I was seeing last night
involved the head.
It would break 90% of the people that are out here. And 90%.
I tell my fiance this all the time. I said, people don't realize sometimes when they're watching the game and they see two guys crash into each other, or they see the receiver jump up, catch the ball, hit the ground and pop back up, and everybody's just yelling like, yeah. But they don't know the impact that just had on his body that the normal person could not take.
I want to say to people, just right now, stand on your couch, jump on the floor, and hit the floor chest first. Don't do that. No, please don't. But hit the floor chest first. That would be like, some of the end of the play hits that I see. Yeah. It was watching last night. So I said, let's go back to your high school days. But even at the high school level, though you weren't that big back then, the same intensity of the contact was there.
Oh, yeah. In high school, my senior year, I was about 6'3", 215. playing wide receiver.
That's no small boy.
No,
not by anybody's stretch.
Not at all. And I played free safety too, so it was a lot of contact.
Absolutely. But now when you think about that and you look back at your life now, brother, I mean, it's like,
I feel
10
it every
more
day.
years from now. Yeah, you feel it now.
Yeah.
Tell you 10 more years from now, you're going to feel it even more.
That's why I told her she got to take care of me.
There you go. Absolutely. But that's also what made you understand the value of cannabis, is it not?
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. With, cannabis entering my life at an early age, it was definitely something that I knew that, especially playing sports, when I used it, it definitely helped my body. It helped.
And you weren't a significant user of cannabis when you were in high school.
No, not at all.
Okay, when did you start?
Into college.
In college.
Yeah.
So you get into college, and did you start off using it on a regular basis? How did you start off?
I started off using on a regular basis, but it was more of a group environment with the players. Mm-hmm. What I noticed now is we got out a lot of feelings. We talked about a lot of different things that we wouldn't have normally talked about if we didn't have cannabis.
But did you first turn to it because as some sort of a pain relief to playing ball?
Yes, and not just.
Wait, but slow down when you say yes. But talk about that for a second. You're out practicing every single day.
Yeah.
You got a game every weekend, and so here the games are every weekend. So that was it. Freshman year, sophomore year, junior year. When did you start?
It was my freshman year.
Okay.
And I was hanging out with some of the older guys that was from Texas.
And probably saying, dude, man, I had this hurt, that hurt, this hurt. And you were already probably on all of the other pharmaceutical versions of painkillers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like what? What were you on early on?
They give you Percocet. They give you the Toradol shot. And that's the one that guys are lining up like cattle to take.
And talk a little bit about that. This is something that's at best kept secret from football or contact sports. But, this is something that was given out almost like a vitamin, right, before the game.
You would see guys lined up in the locker room, and guys would be having their pants down in the back, and they'd give you a shot on the top of the butt. Well, we had some guys that was kind of wusses and didn't like shots, so you would hear them screaming a little bit like, ah! And we're all laughing and joking and thinking it's all fun and games. But I tell people this, I said, think about it. When you see a player before the game, and they're saying that national anthem, and you see some guys start tearing up, and then guys get emotional, and then the game starts, and we're trying to tear each other's heads off. Right. You got an emotional roller coaster that's going on the whole time while you're on these drugs. So that's something that's not normal, and it does something to the prefrontal cortex because that's the part of the brain that you're damaging.
Contact is hitting there first.
It's hitting there first. So when you're damaging that part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex that controls rational thinking and impulse control, and then you're adding that Toradol shot, you got a recipe for disaster. And then after the game,
and adding in the requirement that go take that guy's head off.
Take that guy's head off. That's your friend in the off season.
Right.
And then after the game is over with, we're giving each other high fives and daps and giving each other love. You see the emotional roller coaster that happens, and it makes that a habit for you. Right. So that's why some guys, as myself, when I got out the league, and we'll go to that, you go through those emotional roller coasters, and that's what you've been taught, and that's what you've been taught for so many years.
That's what your life's supposed to be.
That's what your life's supposed to be, and you think that it's normal, but it's not.
Right. So now you're in college, taking these shots, taking these pills.
Yep.
And then was it in you to say, dude, I got to get off these pills? Or what made you say, let me try cannabis instead?
Well, what happened was, when you go into college, they're basically telling you what to take. They're not giving you an option. Because as a player,
they want your butt out on that field.
They want you out on that
so that
field.
They can make that money for the college.
The NCAA, and I want to know who all that money goes out to the NCAA for these guys going out, putting their life on the line and not getting a dime for it. But that's another subject.
Yes.
But, going out, putting your life on the line every day like this, it causes your body to break down.
Right.
And that's why they just created a new CBA probably 3-4 years ago. But before, we had NFL insurance only 5 years after you're out of the league, and then your insurance lapse because the research they done, it shows that your body and your brain breaks down after 5 years you're out of the league.
Right.
So
from all that damage, all those hits.
From all that damage. So that's why they only gave you insurance for 5 years.
Right. Now, have they changed that? Or
they changed it now to where now guys got lifetime insurance.
Got it.
But the guys before the new CBA, probably 3, 4, maybe 4 years ago, they don't. Right. So when your insurance lapse, you have to go and get another insurance on your own or get COBRA. And that's something that we shouldn't have to do when we put our body and our brain on the line for this game that we love.
Absolutely. And for the owners and for the team. Yeah, absolutely. No question.
Yeah.
So here you are, junior year, you got to try the cannabis?
Yes, I tried the cannabis, and it was something of all the players was doing it. And it was like, we would go after practice and we'll smoke, and then guys are more relaxed. And you're like, hold on, this wrist don't hurt no more. This knee don't hurt no more. So really guys were, finding out really what it did for them without even getting the education that they should have gotten.
And understanding that, it's an anti-inflammatory.
Yes.
So when you're taking it, especially depending on the strain, the level of CBD, CBG, other cannabinoids that are in there, that literally will reduce your inflammation.
Yes. And that's why guys, we didn't even know, like I said, we wasn't getting the education. And you would just see, you were doing the education on yourself. You're like, okay, I'm taking this cannabis. Oh, my knee stopped swelling. Right. Oh, my ankle stopped swelling. So, okay, let me continue to do this.
Sure.
And at the same time, when you're playing a sport, your brain is going 100 miles per hour and you're always going. So that part of cannabis, it slows down that brain and gives you that yellow light or that red light that you wouldn't normally have because of the teaching that you've been getting taught.
Sure.
We always have that green light in football, and that's why you see some of the guys, off season, some guys get in trouble. Right. And it's mostly the guys that have contact sports. Right. Because that part of the brain is damaged, whereas, when an incident or a situation comes up and you're supposed to be like, hey, wait, let me stop. You don't have that part. Right. So cannabis allows you to have that part in your brain to say, hey, wait, stop. Let me make a good sound decision. Okay, this is what I go with.
Now, in college, though, you had to worry about being tested, right?
Yeah.
And so you just figured out what the testing.
And that's what the guys just figured out when the testing was. And in college, my coach was a military coach. And I can remember, me in junior college, the recruiting process starts all over again when you have all your Miamis, your Florida States, and all of them come to recruit you again, like in high school. And I can remember I'm smoking in my dorm, and I get a knock at the door, thinking it's one of my players, and it's the coach that came from Arkansas to come visit me.
Gotcha. Right.
and he started going off when he opens the door, and I'm smoke right in his face, and he's a military coach, a sergeant in the Desert Storm, Sergeant Fitzgerald Hill. So you can imagine how that conversation went.
I bet I know. Yep, absolutely.
So that's how that started, and we had to educate some of our coaches too, because we would tell coach, hey, coach, this helps me for this helps me for that. And some of the coaches would listen, and then you would have some of the coaches that would tell you, hey, you got a drug test coming up, and it's like, hey, it's like a reminder so you can be clean.
Sure. And
it shouldn't be like that, because you don't tell us it's a drug test when you're feeding us all these narcotics.
Right.
All those other things that keep you on the field. And as a player, you want to be on the field. So I'm going to take whatever you give me so I can have that chance and opportunity to play.
Right. And so you went from college, get recruited or did you start with the New Orleans Saints?
I left my junior college and I went to University of Arkansas.
Okay.
And that's where I really found out really that cannabis was really for me and not really alcohol.
Gotcha.
Because, coming out of high school and things like that is, that's just the norm. People want to drink and stuff like that. But when I got to my 4-year university, I wasn't a drinker. I like to be mellow. I like to, have my mind resting. I like to have my body resting. Sure. And that's why I was full-fledged cannabis from there.
And you a daily user? Or,
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes.
So you did that through your 4-year college,
Yes.
and then you get recruited into the NFL?
Yes. I
And
go
who'd
to
you
New
for?
Orleans.
Who'd you go to? New Orleans.
Yes, that was 5 hours away from home, finally.
So I mean, were you reticent thinking that the pros are going to be different in college, where there won't be that many people doing cannabis?
You know what? I thought it was nobody doing it.
Right.
And then Ricky Williams. I played with Ricky Williams and Kyle Turley, and it wasn't until my rookie year. And Ricky Williams, if you know a little bit about Ricky
Sure.
didn't talk to anybody. He had schizophrenia, so
Right.
he was dealing with his own issues.
Sure. And that's from those repetitive concussions.
Yes, and especially playing running back.
Yep.
So Ricky was a guy that, I kind of gravitated to when I first got there, and nobody really talked to Ricky because of, his disorder.
Mm-hmm.
So me and him became close, and it all became close through cannabis.
Gotcha.
And everybody used to ask, how are you and Ricky so close? But I wouldn't tell them, like, no, we're just cool. We're just friends.
Right.
But I didn't think the NFL or players use cannabis like that.
Okay.
Because I was a rookie.
Right.
And then me and Ricky got close. And next thing you know, Kyle Turley comes to me after practice and says, hey, young fellow, come to the house this afternoon. Me and one of the other players are going to be hanging out. Okay. So I'm a rookie and I'm excited about Kyle Turley asking me over. And I get over there and Kyle Turley has this big bowl of cannabis sitting right on the table. It was like, young fella, you smoking? I'm like, hell yeah.
There you go.
And that connected me to these players. And to this day, the players that I connected with through cannabis are some of the only guys that I talk to.
Wow. And so how percentage-wise, how many players of the team do you think consume cannabis?
About 65, 70%.
And that was back then.
Oh yeah. And I'm telling you, about 80% of the league, the NFL, use cannabis.
Right now, for sure.
Right now, for sure. And I hate when they show guys, when they show at the bottom of the screen, they show, fail the drug test. They'll say it some different type of way where you think it's another street drug, where you thinking it's cocaine or something that's hard. But when you find out that it's cannabis that they're getting suspended for, and you're like, hold on. But you're going to feed them all these other narcotics, but something that's really helping them, you're going to crucify them for and make them look bad?
It's just absolutely disturbing to think that the number of players that pregame, the coaches and the staffs come walking through basically with, a smorgasbord of this drug, that drug, this drug, that drug, this drug, that drug, for the whole team.
For the whole team. I mean, it's absurd, and I don't even use that word.
Right. I mean, it's absurd to me. And most people who are tuning in on, the Sunday afternoon football or the Saturday night game, Thursday night football game, they
don't even know what's going on before the game.
They don't think that at all. They
No.
think these guys are coming on the field 100% clean.
But some of these people, those are the same people when they see at the bottom of the screen that player has got suspended or something for, like Stephen A. Smith, stay off the weed. I wish I could have a conversation with him because somebody need to educate that young man because he is the one that really aggravates me because you don't know what that player's going through. You don't know what that player's body is feeling every time he goes home.
And just because maybe that was not your preference, doesn't mean it can't be someone else's preference.
My point exactly. And for them, especially him, it gets me really, really pissed off when I hear him say this stuff because sometimes you got to look deeper. You got to look around the edges and see really what are they using it for and say, hey, is this better than what they're giving them in the locker room?
But, that kind of attitude and that mindset comes from people who just are ignorant to the plant, ignorant to its history,
and never used it.
And just because you didn't doesn't mean that it doesn't work. And, I've had conversations with so many people, especially when they come off, no, marijuana is this, blah, blah. They have been misled by so much mistruth.
Yes.
If we just stopped for 5 minutes and had a conversation about the fact that every one of our forefathers grew it, if you stop and had a conversation about the fact that the entire Revolutionary Army was clothed in hemp,
Yep.
If you have a conversation about the fact that the Freemasons back during the Revolutionary War smoked marijuana, they smoked hemp cigarettes.
Yes.
So
that was the regular medicine for
correct.
them back then.
and you got to stop and say, well, why? Well, if you just stop for a second and take your head out, you know what? You'd recognize that back then there were no toilets. People were wiping their butts with leaves. You know what I mean? There were times back then when nobody was brushing their teeth every day. There were not toothbrushes.
No.
There wasn't air conditioning. There wasn't heat. There were people sleeping on the ground. And we recognize the fact that once human beings lifted themselves up off the dirt and started sleeping on a bed, that changed longevity of human beings by 10 years immediately.
Yep. And that's just about raising them up off the floor to a bed.
Correct. And now, but I'm only talking about this way because I'm trying to say that back then, life was hard. Nobody drank water.
No.
People think you drank water. They didn't.
No.
People literally boiled that water in the morning into something that was close to a near beer because we needed to have the alcohol content to kill off the bacteria that was there that was making people so sick.
Yep.
So even your child walked around having had, 3.1 or 3.0 or 2.9% alcoholic water.
Ain't that something?
Or beer.
Ain't that something?
Yeah, we don't think about that.
We don't think about that. And I tell people, I'm like, look, you can look and there's a liquor store on every corner.
Yeah.
Every corner. You have liquor stores in school zones.
Right.
But when it comes to this plant, oh, no. Well, hold on. For the people that like the Bible, my grandmother, I'm like, hey, don't you know they talked about this plant in the Bible?
Correct.
But when you talk about that, they say no, they get amnesia.
Oh, excuse me. What did the three wise men bring to baby Jesus? Incense, frankincense, and myrrh. Frankincense is a form of a cannabis plant. So stop. And why did they do that? It wasn't that they were trying to get the baby Jesus high.
No.
Back then, they actually burned incense and things like that inside of huts and tents. So for babies, remember, we had something called croup. We had something called whooping cough. We had all of these maladies.
Whooping cough, yeah.
All of these maladies that babies had from, not being able to sleep to that people literally burned incense like that inside of their huts, tents.
Now we call it sage.
That's right. Calm people down.
Yes.
So, and then, but I even go even further. It was, in the early 1700s in the United States of America, you were not considered patriotic if you didn't grow hemp.
Ain't that something?
Yeah. Every tent, every sail, every rope, the word canvas, we believe came from cannabis.
Because what they wrote on was a cannabis canvas.
Correct. And remember, a couple of the initial drafts of the Constitution, of the Declaration of Independence.
It was wrote on hemp. But people, they don't want to be educated that way. And they you're right. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But not only that, but they don't want to be educated on the fact that over the course of the last 40 years, your taxpayers' dollars have paid for funding to research cannabis and why its effects are the way they are, from not only in the United States, but also overseas. We funded research in Israel 40 years ago, 30 years ago. That actually helped to discover the endocannabinoid system, THC, CBD, helped the United States government get its patent. And that's where some of your smartest doctors are.
Yeah, but I mean, people act like this is something that's just a weed and aberration of potheads. It's not. This is something that's been researched and studied over and over and over again for over the last 2,000 years.
And that's why I do a lot of things that I do. And I help show people that, just because a person uses cannabis, they're not just stoners. There are people that get up and do things. They have businesses. They have things that they have going on that they're helping change the world. And, I know a lot of people that drink alcohol and just sit there and don't do nothing too. So it's like you can say that with anything. But when it comes to this plant, you got to look deeper and really what this plant is really doing for people.
Absolutely.
And when you see the many different uses of it, then, you might be able to change your mind. And that's why my slogan is saving lives and changing minds, because you have to get to people's hearts first before you open their minds, because so many people are just in their own bubble. They've been, this way for so long, like the older generations, some people don't like to be shown that they were wrong. And that's why they will still continue to be ignorant, because they do not want to be shown that they were wrong all of this time about a plant they didn't know nothing about.
That's right. And they don't even take the time to educate themselves, because they've got their own point of view and they just want to sit and live their way.
Yeah.
Which is really kind of crazy.
Set in the ways, baby.
Set in the ways. But with you, again, back in the early days of the NFL, you recognize while playing that you got physical relief.
Yeah.
But also you got some mental relief out of that. Talk about that.
Oh man, the mental relief I got out of it was it was amazing. For me to be able to open up to some of my players and some of my peers about, some of the things that might have been going on with me, that was big and that was major. Especially for, like I said, the brain. It slows that part of the brain down. It had me having better relationships with people. It didn't keep me on edge. Because when you're going from the narcotics they give you and then you walk out of that door, it's let me induce cannabis so I can get this part out of me, because, those narcotics, it would have you on edge and angry.
Right.
And, the normal, fan, they don't know when they see a guy out there on the field and they're banging against each other, they're trying to really hurt each other. And it takes a certain type of person to want to keep banging into somebody for 60 minutes. Right. So for 60 minutes, you're banging into somebody.
And then you got to turn around and be nice, because the fan went up saying, "I'm picking her."
Ain't that something?
Right.
You got to turn around and be nice. And, like the situation with the Browns defensive end, when he hit the guy with the helmet. Mm-hmm. When you go past that point of this is football, that yellow light and red light he didn't have.
Right. Because
of that part of the brain is damaged, and they're saying, hey, we're going to stop helmet to helmet. Okay, if you want to, it's situational for the NFL. I'm going to tell you this now.
Right.
Because if you look at the offensive line and defensive line, they hit helmets every play.
Every play.
They start off the game helmet to helmet.
Every play.
So it's situational for the NFL. And, at our athletes treatment center, at the Crosby Center, we've seen those brains, and the brains that was mostly damaged are the offensive line, defensive line, running backs, and linebackers, because they're doing the most contact.
Right. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And now you mostly used in your early career after the game, post game.
Oh yeah, post game. I mean,
and then you got injured.
Yeah.
Talk about that first injury.
That first injury was in 2005. It was the Katrina year, and that was a stressful year for everyone in Louisiana.
Yes.
They told me that it was 2 days before Katrina. We had a preseason game. I tore my knee, and then the next day they said, hey, you have to have reconstruction knee surgery. Wow. And I'm like, oh man. And this was like a year right after I signed my deal. Mm-hmm. So I know how this goes. Right. So I'm trying to get back out on the field as quick as possible. Mm-hmm. But when you're rehabbing with the team, you have to take what they give you.
Right.
So I was able to rehab on my own.
Gotcha. Okay.
When you're injury reserve. So all I used was cannabis butter on my knee and used cannabis. That was it. Mm-hmm. I had an MCL tear. Okay. I came back full-fledged running in 3.5 weeks off an MCL tear. Wow. When they told me I had to have reconstruction knee surgery.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But you came back a little bit too quick, right? Because that ended up damaging your Achilles?
Yeah. I came back, and then that next year, when you hurt, a part of your body, you compensate.
Correct.
And I was compensating and putting a lot of pressure on my hamstring. So then I had a hamstring pull, and then shortly after that, Achilles tear. And that was, I don't wish that on my worst enemy, that Achilles tear, because that's something that really, if you don't rehab it right, you'll have a limp for the rest of your life.
Right.
And just so happened I was with the right people in Kansas City rehabbing and using that cannabis butter.
And that was the career-ending injury, right?
Yeah,
there, right?
It was. It was something to where it was like, okay, I can't do this every day. I see my body still break. My body's breaking down. It comes from a knee to a hamstring to a quad to a Achilles, major injury, and it was like, you know what? It's time to hang them up and try something different.
Right, there you go. But all along, still using cannabis.
Yes, all along, still using cannabis. It wasn't to a point in time we'll get to where it was hard to get cannabis, so we'll get to that.
But now, so that history is really what's made you the advocate for the NFL today,
yes.
right?
Oh, yes. And just to go back, my rookie year, I got caught on a drug test with Ricky Williams. You know, I was smoking with Ricky, and you know, I was asking Ricky about the drug test. I didn't know nothing about it. And he was like, "Don't worry about it, fool. Your last name is Williams like mine. You'll get tested in training camp."
Right.
And they tested me in minicamp.
Oh no.
And when I tell you, these doctors think that you're really crazy when you get tested for cannabis. They think that you are psycho. They think that you're not even a human.
No matter what kind of opioids you got in your system.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And they fly you to Atlanta and they make you feel like this. They make you feel like you're really doing something that's really, really, really bad for your body. And when they do this to you, now it sets up in your brain, well, are the narcotics good for me?
Right.
So now you in limbo, don't know what to take. You don't
Right.
know what to take. Do I take my cannabis and keep getting suspended? You keep taking my money?
Right.
Or do I take the opioids that you give me and keep breaking my body down and my brain? So what do?
Take the opioids. I'm
Take
sure.
the opioids.
Absolutely.
Like that old saying, my coach, my agent told me, you want to play, you want to be on the field, take what they give you. You want to be at home, take what you getting.
Right.
And I'm like, this is the sport I love, because you coming from high school to college,
Sure.
it's just a kid's game.
Right.
When you get to the pros, now it's business. And that's the part that young guys don't understand when they get into the league, that this is business.
Right.
And, you know, whatever these, you know, the trainers give you, you have to take.
Right.
We can't even have a cold. If you got a cold, you can't even take cough medicine. You got to wait till you get to the facility and the trainer or the doctor gives it to you.
Wow. And he might give you cough medicine.
And he might give you cough medicine. You have to be sick all night long until you get to that facility, because they're the ones that treat you. So
And
your
what they
life
say
is in their
goes.
hands.
Yes.
And that's crazy that you're a grown man putting your life in another doctor's hand. And it's like, okay, do I trust you, or do I trust what I know that's best?
Right.
But I have to trust you, because this
That's
is how
the way
I
you
get
get a
paid.
paycheck. Right.
Yep.
So, and then, you know, when you take a look back now and looking back at your series of injuries,
Yeah.
which one would have helped to get you through better?
I think it would have been the cannabis.
Right.
Because I tell a lot of people this story is, when I had my hamstring pull, they would take you to the chiropractor. The chiropractor would bring in another doctor, and you have to sign a waiver for this treatment. They would inject these needles into your hamstrings, and medicine would flow out through your hamstrings. When they hit that button, your hamstring starts to contract, going crazy. Then next thing you know, 2 days later, you're able to run again.
Wow.
But I always wondered, why did we have to sign this waiver at a chiropractor's office?
Right.
And they were bringing another doctor. And that's just what they did to hurry up and get you out there on the field. I mean, if you look at it, it's almost like the modern day slavery, when they put you up on the front, neck size, shoulder size, how fast you can run. You know, that's what they do. And that's how they make you feel too. They make you feel like cattle, but the game that you love, this is how you get paid. This is how you feed your family.
Right.
So it's either I do this and don't play the game that I love, or I do this and play the game that I love and risk the consequences later.
And what you ended up doing as a consequence was speeding up that other injury.
Yep.
Which now ends the career.
Yep. And that's what it does for many guys. And it sends guys into deep depression when the game leaves you before you're ready.
Yeah, and did that happen for yourself?
Yeah, it left me before I was ready. I had so many more years, to go, because my body was I'm still healthy. You know, I played 8 years, but I still had more years on my body. But through the narcotics and through all the shots, the Toradol, your body starts to break down. And I think they know this, right. And this is how they keep the cattle run going. Because when every year you got guys leaving out and you got guys coming in.
Right.
So it's, it returns like a turnkey situation where it don't matter who leaving, somebody else is coming in.
Absolutely. Somebody wants that seat.
Yeah. Somebody wants that seat. And the way they build these sports teams up, they build these teams so, you're looking at it on TV and you're like, oh, this is what I want to do. From a kid, I want to play NFL. I want to play NBA. And the more that they keep, showing it and bringing it to your neighborhoods to like, hey, this is the sport for you. It makes you want to play.
Sure.
But you don't know the ins and outs of it just to play.
Right. And at the end of the day,
Yeah.
you wind up in a situation where, you're paying for it for the rest of your life.
Yes. I mean, it was to the point to where so many guys on our team use marijuana with the Saints. Our coaching staff will let some of the guys that they knew that were frequent smokers, let them know days before and tell them don't come in until the afternoon.
Right.
I mean, I've seen it with my own eyes. Hey, leave, come back in the afternoon, come back tomorrow. We're going to say we just sent you home. And I've seen it.
Right.
And some coaches knew, and some of my coaches on my coaching staff was old school. Like Jim Haslett and some of these guys were old school. So these guys were used to spot shoot. They used to shoot needles directly into the area that was affected.
Right.
And you can see the way he walked, the way some of these coaches walked that played. They walked funny. Their body was distorted because of all the shots they were getting and narcotics.
Wow. Look, I don't want to run out of time without talking about what you're doing now, though.
Yes.
Let's talk about what you're into now.
Well, man, where do we start?
Yeah.
Well, I started my company, Boobeary.
Mm-hmm.
It's a CBD company. We're full spectrum. And I went into this space because of the injury situation.
Mm-hmm.
So many guys, like I said, we get injured, but they don't know what to do for the injuries. And I made sure that, I went into the research development, went through this industry the hard way to learn about, what cannabis really does for the body, so I can really pass this information, education on to other players.
Sure.
And, starting with this company, I started out the back of my car.
Gotcha.
And I worked my way up the ladder, and I just didn't want to be one of these athletes that I see that just jump in the industry and jump on labels and jump on brands.
Yeah.
I said, that's easy. That's like an advocate. My grandmother, my mom can do that. I want to do something bigger and better and go deep into this so I can help so many other guys that was just like me.
Sure.
And it's been amazing. I also have a nonprofit organization called Boobeary Kares, and we travel the country caregiving. We were in Panama City doing the disaster relief efforts.
Sure. Hurricane Michael.
For Hurricane Michael. We take water to Flint, Michigan. Flint, Michigan doesn't have any water. And so we just do a lot of caregiving around the country, and we do it through the world of cannabis and showing people that, hey, this is a cannabis-based nonprofit organization, but it shows that we're out in the community really helping, really giving back, and breaking that stigma of people that really think that cannabis is a drug. It's a medicine.
Sure. And you also involved in Gridiron Cannabis Coalition?
Yes.
Talk about that.
I owe everything to Gridiron Cannabis Coalition.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Bucerio, he was one of the co-founders. He was the founder of the Gridiron Coalition. And when I was in California, he was a guy that I went to and asked, how can I get in this industry? Mm-hmm. And he set me up with a table at the 420 games.
Okay.
And he set me up with a table. And it's an organization where they help educate athletes, help educate the world what athletes go through and what cannabis really does for them. So I wasn't going to go, but then I sat at this table and people just kept coming up and talking, and I kept explaining what it does. And next thing you know, we drew a crowd, and next thing you know, Steve D'Angelo comes over. And Steve D'Angelo comes over, and me and him talked for about an hour. And he realized my passion behind this. He realized, why I wanted to do this, and he appointed me his consultant.
Oh, that's great.
And his consultant helped me, with all the research development, and helped me really stay out in California to really do this. And I owe a lot to, like I said, the Gridiron Coalition and Steve D'Angelo. So it was very, very fun for me being out in California and learning a lot. I learned the business. I learned how slow California can be sometimes.
Sure.
But I really learned the research and development part. So when I went into the product development, I knew exactly what to put out for the people that what they really needed.
Gotcha. Now you live in Florida.
Yes, I live in Panama City Beach, Florida with my lovely fiance and my stepdaughter.
And you're working on expanding your brand out here.
Yes.
Now you got to find a different mechanism to actually produce it there.
Oh yeah. My manufacturers and my all my partners, Gamma Pharmaceuticals, they're right out here out of Davie, Florida. We're doing some really good things right now. We're infusing coffee. We're infusing beer. We're trying to do a lot of things in this space so we can show, really what this plant does. We're also working in the hemp building space, trying to bring in affordable homes
Sure.
to those that really need it because, hemp grows strong over time. It's environmentally safe. And so that's what we're trying to do is show the many facets of this industry and be a brand that can be in so many different lanes, helping a lot of different people.
Absolutely. What's on the horizon?
What's on the horizon right now? I'm working with Indian River Coffee. They're out this way. That's going to be a huge project where we're infusing all their coffee K-cups and coffee beans. And right now, what's on the horizon with the nonprofit is we're trying to build more affordable homes for the disaster relief victims there in Panama City from Hurricane Michael.
Sure. Man, I'm going to tell you, this has been so good to talk to you, Boo.
You too, man. You too. Trust me. I've always been a fan, watch your show when I don't want to say a kid because I don't want me and you look the same age. I'm 40 years old myself. So.
I'm a little older than you, brother.
Yeah.
Quite a bit older. That's all right.
But I watch your show a lot of times with my mom, and when I found out, you were going through the things that you were going through with MS, and this was your passion, and it just shows that, people like us, we really use our platform for something good.
Absolutely.
To try to help more people, because if it wasn't for people like us that were building this platform and helping people, how would some of the people know? And mainly, and I tell people this, in the African American community, if you don't go into the communities and show people, we don't know about what's going on.
Correct.
Because it's not brought to us like it is in other communities. So I try to be that gap, that bridge to where I can go in a lot of these communities and change people's minds. And the way I change their minds is through their hearts, and that's through the community service, and that's through giving. Because once you open people up with their hearts, now they're like, okay, what is it you're talking about now?
Right. You open a heart, you open a mind.
Yes.
And I can tell you, so now over the course of this next year, for sure, I'm working on a lot of different projects in this space, and I will reach out to you because I think, brother, we really need to synergistically forget about what's in it for us individually and what it's in it for us.
Yeah, it is.
In total.
It is. And that's, my fiance, she does a lot of this with me, and she knows I do a lot of this stuff, out the goodness of my heart. And sometimes we do it out of our pocket, and sometimes, like you said, it might not go the way, you want it to go, but long as it's helping people and you getting the information out there, I always say your blessing's going to come back to you tenfold when you're doing it for the right reasons.
Absolutely. Absolutely, my friend. Well, thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thank you.
I'm going to call you up to get you back sometime, too.
Hey,
okay?
man, call me. My number's always on 24/7 like AAA.
You got it. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to Let's Be Blunt with Montel, a wonderful conversation with a wonderful human being, Mr. Bo Williams. Make sure you tune in to the next Let's Be Blunt with Montel.